Good evening and welcome to Thursday's August 27th of 2020 Kern County Planning Commission hearing. I officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please start with the roll call?
Mr. Ashley?
Here.
Mr. Judge?
Here.
Mr. McGivney? Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Simon?
Here.
Moving on to Commissioner member announcements or reports. On their own incentive, Commissioners members may make an announcement or report on their own activities. Do I have any fellow Commissioners like to speak on any comments today? Seeing none, move on to item number C, approval of minutes. I will make one notation that the date should read August 13th of 2020 instead of July 23rd of 2020. And if nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from
Second.
August 13th,
Second.
with the amendment you
All in
proposed.
favor?
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Moving on, we are now going on to consent items. These are items scheduled before the Planning Commission which are being recommended for approval by the staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the commission already wishes to comment or ask on these case items. And I will then turn to Mr. Murphy to read the consent items tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I go through the consent calendar, if you don't mind, could you go over our COVID-19 virtual statement, and then
Yes.
I will move on to the items on the consent calendar.
Murphy, thank you for that clarification. I will make this following statement tonight. The County of Kern provided notice that as a result of the declared federal and state and local emergencies due to COVID-19 pandemic, and in light of the governor's orders, this Kern County Planning Commission meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comments are accepted via email or voice message to the clerk of the commission prior to tonight's meeting, and live comments via teleconference will be held during the meeting. If you're interested in providing comments on any items on the agenda and have not already received direction on how to do so, please contact the clerk at 661-862-8647. Moving from that item, we will then come right back into the consent items to Mr. Murphy.
Again, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. So these are items that are scheduled before your commission, which are being recommended for approval by staff, and the applicant has been informed of any special conditions and has no objection. The hearing on these items may be expedited if no member of the commission or audience wishes to comment or ask any questions on the case. This evening, we have 4 items that are on the consent calendar. The first is case number 1. This is conditional use permit 23, map number 99. Our applicant is 4 Creek by Kyle Pereira. This project is located on the south side of 7 Standard Road, approximately 3 miles west of Interstate 5 in the unincorporated Kern County, Bakersfield area. The item before your commission is a CUP to allow for the construction of a biomass energy conversion facility and an associated solar field on a 14-acre portion of a 240-acre parcel that is zoned A. The staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The next item on consent this evening is case number 2. This is specific plan amendment number 90, map number 101, zone change case number 197, map 101, PD plan number 15, map 101. Our applicant for this project is J&M California Land Company by McIntosh and Associates. There are 3 actions before your commission this evening. The first is to amend the land use, open space, and conservation element of the Western Rosedale specific plan from map code RR to map code GC, general commercial, or a more restrictive map code designation. The second action is a change in zone classification from A1 to C2 PD, or a more restrictive district. And the third is a modification to an approved PD plan number 15, map number 101. That original PD plan authorized the expansion of an existing mini warehouse storage facility. The modification before your commission this evening is requesting 520 additional mini storage units, landscaping, and paved area, resulting in a 9.80 acre project boundary, all again in the C2 PD district. The staff recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors adopt the mitigation measure monitoring program, approve the specific plan amendment as requested, approve the zone change as requested, and approve the modification of Precise Development Plan 15, map number 101, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The next item on consent is case number 3. This is zone change case number 59, map 100, Ag Preserve number 10, inclusion. The applicant is Johnson Farms by Mark Johnson. This project is located west of Superior Road, approximately 2,000 feet south of Brimhall Road in the Rosedale area. The two actions before your commission this evening are, 1, to change the zone classification from A1 to A, or a more restrictive district. And the second action is the inclusion of approximately 118.4 acres within the boundaries of Ag Preserve number 10. The recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve the zone change as requested and approve inclusion of approximately 118.4 acres into the boundaries of Ag Preserve number 10 and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. The final item on consent is case number 5. This is Ag Preserve number 13, inclusion. Our applicant is Taft Highway Bakersfield LP by David Gladstone. This project is located on the northeast corner of Panama Road and Cottonwood Drive in the Bakersfield area. The action before your commission is to include approximately 158 acres within the boundaries of Ag Preserve 13. The staff recommendation is to advise your commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors to approve inclusion of approximately 157 acres into the boundaries of Ag Preserve number 13 as requested and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the draft resolution. That completes the reading of the consent calendar tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Prior to making a motion, Madam Clerk, is there anybody from the public that would like to make any comments on these consent items tonight?
Chairman Judge, there have not been any requests to do so.
Any fellow commissioners like to have any comments on these items before making a motion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Four ayes, one absent.
Thank you. Before moving on, we do have a notice of right to appeal for projects where Planning Commission action is final. Action subject to appeal to the Board of Supervisors by an interested person with no development proposed by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. I'll turn to Mr. Murphy to give more detail on this.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murphy, I think your mic is off.
It is. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the consent calendar, there's only one item that is subject to an appeal. That was case number 1. An appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that we have available at the department and on our website. That filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of this hearing. If no appeal is received, the action of the Planning Commission is final. The other items on the consent calendar will be scheduled for the final consideration by the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Next, we're moving on to public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on this agenda and over which the commission has jurisdiction. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Madam Clerk, is there anyone that would like to speak on any item that is not on tonight's agenda?
Chairman Judge, there is nobody that has requested to speak.
Okay, so we will close the public presentation portion of this meeting tonight, and we'll move on to our items, and I will turn to our first item tonight of item number 4, and I'll turn to Mrs. Simon to give the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Josh, and good evening, Commissioners. The request before your commission this evening is a conditional use permit that would authorize the construction of an 80-foot tall wireless communications facility within an approximate 625 square foot lease area. And the design of the tank would be a water tank stealth design with an associated equipment shelter in the A zone district. The applicant for this project is Verizon Wireless, represented by Sierra Deployment Services. The project representative, Ben Hackstead, is unable to attend tonight's hearing, and therefore his supervisor, Pete Shubin, will be available to answer any project-related questions. The project site is located within a 3.97 acre parcel, and that is located approximately 1/4 north of Norris Road and Coffee Road in the Rosedale area. The project parcel is developed with a single-family residence, accessory structures, and extensive landscaping, including mature palm trees along the side and rear property lines, and a mix of large trees in the front yard area. As proposed, the project leased area is sited on the west side of the property and would be buffered by a wall at the end of the property And there's also a grove of small trees located on the west side of that property. Along the northern property line, the project site is adjacent to a large agricultural field that is developed with an existing agricultural establishment and operations. The leased area would contain the wireless facility, associated electrical equipment cabinets, a backup generator, and control panels. The facility would be fully enclosed within a concrete masonry wall and landscaping around that. Access to the site would be from Coffee Road, where the entrance is currently located, the private driveway, and then a paved access road would be constructed to get to the facility around to the west side of the property. The surrounding area of the project includes agricultural land immediately north that I mentioned earlier, and to the east, west, and south are parcels that are predominantly zoned estate residential, suburban combining, and those contain large lots with single-family residence developed. The zoning for the entire project site is A, exclusive agriculture, and it is consistent with the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan. The wireless communications facility are allowed within an A-zone district with the authorization of a conditional use permit. The maximum height allowed for cellular facilities in the A-zone district without the processing of a zone variance is 150 feet in height. This project is proposing a height of 80 feet. All proposed towers must comply with the development standards of both the base zone district, which is what the site is located, the A-zone district, and the wireless communications facility, which is also Chapter 19.91 of the Kern County zoning ordinance. Because the project site is within 300 feet of a residentially zoned area, this project was required to include stealth design. The proposed wireless facility will resemble a water tank with faux wood paneling, and it is consistent with the requirements of the Kern County zoning ordinance Chapter 19.91. The water tank design is meant to complement the surrounding agricultural uses and large estate properties in the area with the domestic agricultural uses. Through the use of the stealth design technologies by disguising the fact of the facility so that it will not be easily recognizable as a telecommunications equipment, these stealth designs are meant to seek and harmonize with the natural and built environment. The purpose of the Chapter 19.91 is to establish reasonable guidelines and regulations for the siting of wireless communication facilities that provide non-broadcast services, including all other facilities subject to the Federal Communications Act of 1996. The siting of the wireless communications facility shall be encouraged to minimize the adverse effects, aesthetic effects on the residential areas and other sensitive view sheds by co-locating facilities wherever feasible. To address co-location, staff notes that the applicant has provided alternative site analysis as part of the submitted application, indicating an effort was made to co-locate. However, at this time, co-location was not feasible. During the course of the processing of this request, staff has notified the surrounding property owners within a 1,000-foot radius of the project site, as well as affected local, state, and federal departments and agencies. Your commission has received an addendum tonight that includes 2 comment letters from the surrounding property owners and 1 letter from the Kern County Environmental Health Department. It should be noted that there is a condition already included in your draft resolution this evening that addresses this department's comment. Staff has received a number of concerns specifically from the residents within the Blackwood Estate and Iron Oak gated communities. As of tonight, staff has received a total of 13 comment letters in opposition of the project, citing similar concerns regarding potential negative impacts on aesthetics, as well as health concerns regarding risks from radio frequency emissions. At this time, I would like to read into the record a letter from Evelina and Kent Brewer, who submitted a comment letter that was in the distribution of tonight's addendum, and they requested that it be read into the public record. Dear Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department, regarding file number CUP number 61, map number 102. We oppose the construction of the cellular tower as noted in above proposal. We kindly ask that this letter be added and read at the public hearing on Thursday, 8/27/2020 at 7 p.m. of the Kern County Planning Commission. You have our permission. Sincerely, Evelina and Kent Brewer. I would now like to address the other topics of concern that were received. Staff received comments from area residents expressing concern related to potential exposure from radio frequency wave emissions. I'm just going to wait for the new, there you go. Thank you. In response to this comment, it should be noted the Telecommunications Act of 1996 specifically states that a local government may not deny a request to construct a facility on the grounds that its radio frequency emissions would be harmful to the environment or to the health of the residents if those emissions are meeting the FCC standards. Furthermore, condition 6G has been included on page 6 of your draft resolution that reads, "The communications facility shall be constructed and operated in accordance with all requirements of the Federal Communications Commission." In response to the concern regarding radio frequency emissions from cell towers, staff would like to clarify the difference between non-ionizing radio frequency waves emitted from cell towers from emissions of stronger ionizing radio frequency waves associated with findings linked to the incidence of cancer. In summary, wireless communications facilities are categorized similarly to other terrestrial communications facilities that emit non-ionizing radiation, such as television, radio waves, and television and radio waves. These frequencies at any level of strength have not produced findings to suggest the capacity to harm people, such as cancer. This differs from commonly known types of ionizing radiation, which includes X-rays, gamma rays, and ultraviolet rays. This department is not aware of any proven scientific mechanism to exist at this time which would indicate how exposure of non-ionizing frequencies are linked to cancer. Therefore, any non-ionizing radiation emissions from the proposed facility would not result in a significant impact on health and safety. Staff also received comments regarding potential aesthetic impacts. The proposed water tower design would visually conceal all the equipment and antennae that would be painted a dark matte earthen hue color and utilize faux wood designs to better blend into the surrounding area, providing a visually pleasing aesthetic. It is staff's opinion that the faux wood material of the water tank would complement the surrounding adjacent agriculturally developed property by mimicking a water storage facility, which is a use that is permitted by right within the A and E zone district. Additionally, the proposal would be surrounded by landscaping and not create a new source of substantial light or glare, which would adversely affect day or nighttime views in the area, as lighting is not proposed for the site, and all building materials and paint for this cell tower would be matte or non-glossy as conditioned with faux wood facade on the water tower. In addition, attached to your staff report is a photograph of what the tower would look like. Staff has included the following recommended conditions of approval to ensure the design is built as proposed. Condition 2A and B, beginning on page 3 of the attached resolution, reads, all equipment shelters, poles, antennas, and supporting structures shall be treated and painted in matte, non-reflective, dark, neutral hues, brown, charcoal, beige, etc. No signage or advertisement of any kind shall be authorized to be established on the water tank unless a formal modification of this conditional use permit is authorized at a duly noticed public hearing. B, the tank design shall include darker faux wood facade as indicated in the provided designs and approved by the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Director. Regarding gap coverage, staff has received information, including supplemental maps from Verizon Wireless, showing the anticipated coverage that will result should this project be implemented. Staff has to evaluate this information and coverage maps on a provider-by-provider basis. Just because there may be service in an area by one company does not mean that this is a basis for denying this application. Staff notes the applicant has provided an alternative site analysis report as part of the submitted application indicating an effort to co-locate. However, again, there has not been any, there is not a feasible co-location at this time. As proposed, the facility is consistent with the goals and policies set forth in the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan and demonstrates compliance with the development standards of the Kern County zoning ordinance. Staff is of the opinion the wireless facility would provide enhanced service to the wireless communication consumers in the area. In addition, the circumstances our community faces today demonstrates the immediate need for reliable connectivity among emergency responders in the area, as well as a growing demand for wireless service by remote workers and distance learners. Therefore, staff believes the proposal, subject to the recommended conditions of approval specified in the draft resolution, will ensure the project is not materially detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the public or to the property and residents in the vicinity. Based on this evaluation, staff recommends your commission approve the requested conditional use permit in accordance with the recommended conditions and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolution. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Simons, for that report.
Mr. Chairman, if I may offer one thing, I just wanted
Yes,
to
Mr.
note
Murphy.
that the staff report in the text said that a 8-foot masonry block wall would be constructed. Condition 5I says that the block wall would be 6 foot. So the other change based on the applicant's submittal to us is I would recommend that condition 5I be revised to read 8 feet as opposed to the 6 feet based on the information that the applicant provided to us at the initial onset of this project application.
Mr. Murphy, thank you for that clarification. And tonight, you mentioned that the applicant, Mr. Pete Shubin, is available for comment. Madam Clerk, is the applicant would like to speak on this project tonight?
Chairman Judge, yes, he is. Pete Shubin, if you could dial *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Am I unmuted?
Yes, we could hear you. Please spell your last name for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am Pete Shubin, S-H-U-B-I-N. I'm with Sequoia Deployment Services, the representative for Verizon Wireless. We've reviewed the staff report and conditions of approval, have discussed them with staff, and can accept them as presented in the staff report with revisions noted. Staff did an excellent job explaining the project in the staff report, so I will try not to spend additional time discussing what has already been presented. I'd like to comment on the additional materials provided since the staff report was issued. Public concerns in the staff report include questions regarding why the site cannot be located someplace else. To better address this, we provided updated justification information demonstrating the need for the site at this location for coverage and capacity issues. The data shows that the two sites providing service to the area surrounding the project site are at capacity, creating a gap in service. This results in poor coverage and user experience. The site is needed to meet the demand for service in the area surrounding the site. If the site was moved north to the intersection of Coffee and 7 Standard Roads, as one suggested was made, it would be very close to an existing site and provide redundant overlapping coverage with that site while not providing service where it is needed to the south. If the site was moved to the nearest commercial area, which is at the intersection of Olive and Coffee to the south, it would not provide the needed service to the north and east of the area with issues. In the submitted materials, these areas are shown as unfulfilled objective on the maps. Properly locating the needed facility lessens the need for additional facilities in the future. The information shows the site is needed where the proposed to fill the Verizon wireless gap in coverage. Questions were raised regarding the height of utility poles and trees in the area and the accuracy of the photostems. To address this, Verizon Wireless had the heights of the trees and utility poles in the neighborhood surveyed. This showed that the utility pole line that runs north to south just west of the property ranges in height from 53 to 56 feet. That the taller trees on the parcel where the site is proposed are 47 to 87 feet tall, with 3 trees over 80 feet tall. That trees on a residential parcel southwest of the proposed location range in height from 43 to 59 feet. And that trees on the A-zone parcel immediately south of the proposed location range in height from 64 to 67 feet. There are even more trees further south near Norris Road that are 62 to 85 feet tall. What this shows is the proposed facility height is comparable to the heights of existing physical elements in the area surrounding the proposed location. A question was raised regarding locating the facility on the same parcel surrounded by the existing trees that are on the east side of the parcel to better conceal the structure. The existing tall trees surround the house that's on the property. The property is zoned agriculture with a house on the east side and is open ground and agricultural uses on the west side. The proposed location does not disrupt the on-property uses while balancing the setbacks from off-site residences. And if the site was moved to be located and surrounded by the trees, it would disrupt the on-site uses. The need for the proposed facility is demonstrated in the record. It also complies with all applicable code requirements. We respectfully request that the Planning Commission approve the project. Thank you, and I am available for questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay, thank you, Pete, for your comments. And if we need to call back on you, we'll reach out to you. I will now turn to Commissioner Sprague.
Yes, sir. If we reduce the height of this from 80 feet to 65 feet, how would that affect your project?
Commissioner, this project will function for Verizon Wireless at a reduced height of 65 feet. What it will not do is effectively provide an option for a future co-locator, which is an objective in the county's code. And that's because of the height of the trees that are nearby. Right now, the antennas are up near the top of the trees and the signal can effectively be distributed out past the trees. At a 65-foot height, yes, it will still function properly for Verizon Wireless, but a co-locate carrier would be too low to function properly in our opinion. So if the height was lowered, the county would lose that opportunity to use the structure for a future co-locate opportunity for another carrier. But yes, the height could be lowered to 65 feet and still function properly.
The reason I asked the question is that 80 feet, I reviewed the site for the second time today, and it stands out like a sore thumb at 80 feet in my trajectory that I used today. And I was thinking that if we put it at 65 feet, it's more compatible with the neighborhood, doesn't stand out so much, especially if they're building residential adjacent to it. And so my feeling is I'd like to see 65-foot height there instead of 80. Otherwise, I think the project would be acceptable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd listen to other commissioner comments or the public's comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will now turn to Commissioner Skidmore.
Mr. Chauvin, on the height conversation again, what would be the lowest height that you would be able to operate, not including the co-locator issue that you just mentioned? What would be the maximum height you could operate, or the minimum?
That would be a 60-foot rad center. We did do that analysis, and that 60-foot, from a planning discussion perspective, would translate into 64 feet for the height of the structure. That would be the minimal operating height.
And would that include the antenna as well?
That the antenna would be included in that. The center of the antenna would be at 60 feet. Then it would extend up a little bit to 63, and then the structure would finish at 64.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore. I'll now turn to Commissioner Ashley.
So those are two of the questions that I had as well. One, a water tower in this location does seem out of place in the big scheme of things, and so I wonder if also, it would be a big deal to change that to a tree-looking structure as opposed to the water tower. It seems that would fit better with the existing trees that are there.
Mr. Shubin, that question I think we directed towards you. Could you mind commenting on that for us? Mr. Shubin, are you still on the line?
They had recommend,
We apologize if you were
Yeah.
speaking earlier, we were not able to hear you, so if you could please start that conversation over, we'd appreciate that.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
can.
we got you.
Okay, there we go. It's a bad pun these days, but there, I must have been muted for some reason. When we had initially contemplated this project and proposed the project to the county, it was for a tree design. And that was approved by the property owner and found agreeable, and by Verizon Wireless. Staff had mentioned to us that they had thought a water tank structure would be better fitting. And we received that request and changed the design for a water tank. So to answer the question is, yes, a tree structure would be acceptable to Verizon Wireless and the property owner at this location. And I believe you have exhibits that show that are in the file.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners?
I have one more question.
Just the comment about, staff does a fantastic job. Obviously had reasons probably to change your initial proposal from a tree structure to a water tower structure. We see comments now saying that neighbors would feel better and could maybe live with it if it looked more like a tree rather than the water tower. So that's the reason for my question.
Thank you, Commissioner Ashley. I will turn back to
Understood.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Mr. Shubin, you had mentioned moving the location of this tower, and I think the conversation was moving it more north to major intersections. Is there an issue with moving it, within a closer proximity of where it is now? I believe there's conversation in the staff report about other locations in the area, but you were having a difficult time finding property owners that were willing. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit?
Yes, we looked at the area and all the residential parcels and the ag parcels, and not the single family residential parcels. We even looked at City of Bakersfield owned parcels. And in contacting those property owners, the parcels that would be viable, meaning they were of a shape and size that could support a wireless use. We had two private property owners that entertained the project. One is the proposed project. The other one is the property that is immediately south of the proposed project. And we refer to that as Brown Coffee, simply because it was Mrs. Brown who owned the property and it was on Coffee Road. Mrs. Shirley Brown, in our negotiations, expressed to us that she was going to sell the property and didn't think the timing was good for her, even though she was interested in locating the facility on her property. And in fact, the property is currently for sale. So that concern that she had, she decided to sell the property and didn't want the project going on at the same time as the sale. The other properties in the area that could work, because if a property owner tells us, look, I'm not willing to lease you space, that property is unavailable to us. But other things that at our look said, these are good locations, were the City of Bakersfield water tank facility, which is on the southwest corner of Norris Road and Coffee Road. And the city was contacted several times regarding their water department properties over years, not just for this property, but all over the city. And they were consistent in saying no, they would not allow for a wireless use on their water tank properties. So that property is not unavailable to us, and that's been proven out over numerous inquiries over years. There's also a PG&E corridor that runs south on the west side of Coffee Road. We investigated those for, could we attach to one of those structures? They have a unique combination of prohibitions, being the design of the towers for PG&E with their heights and required separation from the conductors, and also the fact that that's public right-of-way, and also runs into a situation with the city of Bakersfield where they have a right-of-way code that would allow for small cells in that instance, but not for a facility that would meet Verizon's needs in this instance. There's also a church property further down Coffee Road. They weren't interested. And I think that one of the reasons might be because to meet all the setback requirements at that location, the site would effectively have to go in the middle of the property, in the middle of the functions that are on that property. It's just really not big enough to satisfy all the setback and code requirements. So that's what we looked at over several years, really, before finally landing where the project is to meet Verizon's need. If you move beyond that area, you just have single-family residential, and then you run into the other sites that were discussed or existing sites that are shown on Verizon Wireless's propagation maps. So that's why we are where we are. Commissioner, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Skidmore.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. I like Commissioner Ashley's idea of the tree design or the pine design, and I think it would be more compatible in the neighborhood and more compatible with the existing trees that are there and any other development that would develop around it. So I could entertain 65 feet in a tree design also, other than the water tower. So which would the applicant prefer, water tower or tree?
Commissioner, a water tower or a tree for us would function the same way, meaning it would put at the height you mentioned, as we discussed, at 65 feet, the facility would function. We would leave that decision to the pleasure of the commission, because both will work for us, and we want this to fit in to the community as best as possible.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I think if we did 65 foot as the limit and made it look like a tree, that it blends and is more compatible with the neighborhood than just having one water tower just sticking up out of the ground that you can see for miles. So I could support it being a 65-foot height tree design rather than a water tower. And I'd listen to other commissioner comments regarding that. Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Craig?
Chairman.
Thank you for your comments. I know we do have other members of the public, I believe, that do want to speak on this. Prior to opening that up, I will also comment on some of the viewpoints of the fellow commissioners. I also see that with the surrounding area, there are a lot of mature trees which beautify the area and surround the neighborhood quite nicely. I believe the idea of, as you mentioned, both commissioners mentioned, of going to more of a tree-style facility would fit the look more so than a water tower. And if the height comment, again, if that does not limit the functionality of the location, I think myself as well, that would be something that would be more accommodating to the surrounding community, and to not allow this to be something that towers over the community as well and hopefully blends in better. So I appreciate the commissioner's comments on those. I would also like to open this back up to, I believe we do have, Madam Clerk, some people that would like to comment or speak on this project. Do you mind opening that up for us?
Chairman Judge, there has been one request to speak. Dustin Dodgen is on the line. If you could please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Dodgen, also please spell out your last name for the record.
Sure. My name is Dustin Dodgen. Last name is Dodgin. I want to thank the commissioners for the consideration of this item, and I really appreciate staff, the thoroughness of the staff report, and the conversations that they had with me in advance of this. I don't want to belabor some of these things because you've already mentioned them. I would support the direction that you're going with this. A 60-foot tower with 4-foot overage to accommodate the antenna in the structure is still fairly different than the area, at least where they want to site it, but certainly a much more appeasing project. I also support the direction the commission's going with respect to the pine tree. That seems to fit a lot better, and hopefully that's where this will go. I would hope that we look at a couple of things. One is, co-location, as I understand, it's fairly automatic. So I believe it's an over-the-counter process, and as long as it's not a substantial change, it's kind of a granted use along with the CUP. So I understand substantial change to be no more than 20 feet. So at that point, if you're at 64 to start, you may be granting today an 84-foot allowance. I just would want to make sure that you confirm with staff that this is truly a 64 or 65-foot limitation, if that is the direction that you're going. The second item is, as I look at the aerial of the property, there are two. So while there are some taller trees on the property, they are not located where the proposed site is. But it does appear from the aerial that there is a space along the southern border that is not up against the residents on the parcel, and that might be a better spot. It puts it right up against two palm trees on that southern border, and it's on the east side of a little structure. So that would be the two items that I'd want the commission to consider. Again, number one, ensuring that co-location. It doesn't sound from the applicant that co-location is likely. However, it is. Again, it may be an automatic increase in the height that becomes really unacceptable for the area. And then the second item being the site, because it really is still out of place at 60 feet. The trees adjoining it aren't, I think they surveyed it at 47 feet. Those aren't 47 feet. Those are very short palm trees that are on the back side of the property. So if you go to the taller palm trees, again, you need to move the structure. But I do want to really commend the commission. I think they grappled with this in a way that really looks out for the neighborhood and staff as well. And that's all my comments. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to stay on the line if there's any questions that I can answer.
Thank you for your comments. I would turn to staff to, we had a document that we had earlier which showed the different heights of the surrounding trees. Could that possibly be pulled back up again, please? And while they're pulling that document up, yeah, thank you so much. So I can have an understanding of the location. Steph, could yourself, or if not the applicant, please comment on the location of which I'm assuming is the tree cluster right on the other opposite side of, it's hard to read here, but outside that structure where it shows those trees are 71 feet. Is that something that can be looked at, or is that an item that can be located to without having any issue with the existing use of the residential?
Chairman Judge, I believe that in the applicant's initial presentation, they had indicated they could not move it any further east at this area because it would interfere with the existing operations of the parcel as it is. And then in response to Mr. Dodgen's comments about south, relocating it down there, then you would actually be moving it closer to a different residential property because it is zoned residential at the bottom. And then I do have some additional comments when you're ready for me just to kind of provide, before you kind of go through and make your final considerations. I just want to provide some additional information for your commission's consideration.
Of course, Mr. Murphy, I do appreciate that. And can staff also comment on, the applicant did mention that at the 60-foot level that they would not be able to co-locate because of the existing trees. Does that still give them the opportunity to have the future height requirement if that does get added on as one of the conditions of the project?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to answer all these comprehensively. And
And I'll
we'll
turn it
kinda
over
go
to you to
from there.
kind of comment those items there.
I have some notes here. The first thing I just want to make sure, as you have, and I'll try to answer every question that came up, is there was a comment made, they believe residential development is coming to the north. I just want to make sure that your commission, it's zoned A, the general plan is agricultural. There's existing agricultural operations on that property, including a huge hay barn and everything else. There is no indication from a staff perspective that that northern property will be developed anytime in the near future with residential. It would need to go through a general plan amendment, a zone change, and so I just want to make sure that regardless of what comments were made, there isn't any from staff to be aware of that aspect of it. Okay, I had that one. Just regarding the overall height, I don't believe I've heard anything today that would say that your commission could not reduce the height. Clearly, the applicant indicated that a 65-foot height would work for them. I do want to make sure that you're aware is that your commission has approved in similar situations within Metro Bakersfield a number of 80-foot tall towers. But again, I haven't heard anything that specifies for this particular project why your commission couldn't go that way. I would like to advise you, though, that if that means that there is not a good potential for a co-location, similar to what happened at Jewetta and Hageman, we may have an applicant that comes in and wants to put an additional facility within 300 feet, 200 feet, because they're looking to get their same coverage as well. So the purpose of our co-location is to the best extent we can, make sure that we don't have two facilities that are located right next to each other. So if it is your commission's desire to reduce this, I just want you to be advised that you may have someone else come in the near future. I'm not saying I'm not aware of anybody. I just want to make sure that you're aware, as that would be part of that overall decision. And we do try to attempt to co-locate when we can. Regarding the question as opposed to the height, I may have to turn to council. That is a little bit of a trickier question for me to answer because the state and federal government specifically have provisions that allow for automatic expansions of the height. And given the fact this property is zoned 150 for, well, it's designated to allow for a 150-foot tower, it has to meet certain setbacks as well. So given the fact there's residential development to the west, it has to be 120%. The height can't be more than 120% of what that distance would be. So there may be someone in the future that may try to co-locate and kind of go from there. You know, clearly the applicant has said it's not their intention to, and staff can make sure that we understand your commission's desire is not to have that. From a legal perspective, there may be something that's brought to our future that trumps the ability for us to do that, but I just want to make sure that your commission is aware, and I don't have a specific answer regarding whether or not that could or could not happen, just given some of those regulations. And then I touched base on if we moved it to the south, it'd be closer. Again, just for overall reference points too, just because I know our applicant mentioned the PG&E transmission towers. Those are just over a quarter mile away to the south from where this project is at. So that transmission corridor that runs all down Coffee from PG&E, that's a quarter mile away, just to kind of give an overall perspective in terms of distance. So I believe that answered all the questions that you had or that I had heard. I'd be happy to answer any more. And again, if it is your desire to kind of make some changes, I do believe that I can make those changes tonight without having to go back. But I just wanted to try to answer those as best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for your clarification. I'll turn it to Commissioner Sprague for another comment.
Mr. Murphy, could we make it 65 foot and cap it as the maximum if we change tree design, or does this other code come into play that lets them add additional footage at a later date to the project?
Commissioner Sprague, through the chair, we can absolutely cap it. That's what we would do. Our condition would say this is approval for a CUP that allows X. However, there may be some other legal state or federal laws that would trump our ability to do that. Again, I just don't know that information right off the top of my head. I know in our staff report, I believe it was a 20% increase, or that as long as it's still within the minimum or the maximum heights that we allow in these districts, that it may be an automatic without having to come back through the CUP. So we would absolutely cap it from this condition. There just may be something in state or federal law that there might be a percentage that allows it to be increased without having to come back to the commission, provided it still meets the appropriate setbacks that we would have established based on the surrounding uses.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And I appreciate you clarifying the comment that us as a commission, we have to look at what the surrounding areas are and the current general plan is, or the current zoning is, and we can't assume or speculate of what could possibly be. So thank you for that clarification. Mr. Sprague, it looks like, is there any other comments from, before we move on to more comments, I want to make sure there's no other public comments besides that one item, correct, Madam Clerk?
Chairman Judge, there have been no other requests to speak by the public.
Okay, so with that, I'd say I would close the public portion of this comment section and then turn to fellow commissioners for more comments.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments, I would be prepared to make a motion.
So, Commissioner Sprague, I will turn to you to entertain your motion.
Well, I would make a motion to approve item number 4 with a limit of 65 feet put into the record. And also indicate that it would be a pine tree instead of a water tower type design. And that my motion includes also a change in the material that we have from 6 foot to 8 foot block wall fence, as read into the record by Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, do you alter that at all, or?
Commissioner Sprague, through the chair, I do not believe I do. What you would be doing, condition 2, would be changed to read, approval authorized conditional use permit to allow the construction of a 65-foot tall wireless communication facility, stealth designed as a faux pine is usually the words we tend to use. So faux pine with the associated landscaping equipment shelter. We would change condition 2A. There is a statement in there that says, let's see here. I believe that we would actually delete conditions 2A and 2B because I don't believe they specifically applied if it was a water tower. So I believe we would delete conditions 2A and 2B because I don't believe they would be necessary. And then finally, yeah, condition 5I would be changed to where it would read from 6 foot and it would be changed to 8 foot high for the concrete masonry wall that would surround the cellular tower.
So, Mr. Chairman, my motion would be as read into the record by staff.
I'm sorry, Mr. Murphy, we do need to include that the tower be non-glossy in finish. So that should be added to condition 2, because we had initially added it to the stealth design requirement.
Okay, that's existing standards anyway, but to her point, and to make sure everybody's clear, the first sentence of condition 2A says all equipment shelters, poles, antennas, supporting structures shall be treated and painted in matte, non-reflective, dark neutral hues, browns, charcoal, beige. All of that would be added to the end of condition 2. So that would read all one continuous condition 2, and then we would delete anything that talks about signage and everything that was related to the water tower. Thank you, Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And just for my clarification too, I obviously with the applicant, we appreciate their project being presented to us today, but the items that the Commissioner Sprague has requested in the motion, I want to clarify as well, those items, from my understanding, were okay with the applicant and had no restrictions on their side with the height and the pine tree.
Chairman Judge, I'm sorry, I think I missed your question. Was it directed to the
Mr. Chair,
applicant?
can you hear me?
That's fine. The applicant could comment on that. I was trying to clarify that there was no, that the applicant himself also commented they were okay with those modifications prior to us taking a motion on it. I wanted to understand if that did cause any issue on the project.
I agree. I believe that's an appropriate question to ask our applicant.
Yes. So, yes, applicant, so, Mr. Sherman, if you're there, if you please comment on that for us.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did track the changes that were presented a minute ago, and they are all acceptable.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So getting back to the motion, I think Commissioner Sprague has put a motion in front of us and addressed the items. I would entertain a second.
Chairman, can I get
Yes.
a quick clarification?
Please.
So not to harp on this co-location issue, but my greatest concern is for what you're talking about, some federal or state issues coming in and allowing then an 80-foot structure to be in place. So do you have any suggestions on how we could potentially deal with that now, maybe not have co-location placed inside of the resolution or?
Commissioner Skidmore, I will say one thing, and then I'll turn it to our council to verify. My initial thought would be is, if there are certain federal or state provisions, there's nothing that we would be able to do locally to address that anyway.
Okay.
But our conditions are clear, and we would understand that that was the direction of this commission, and we would do what we could to help protect that if we could. But I would leave any further response to council.
Yes, as Commissioner through the chair, as a general proposition, the federal government has taken full control over this away from planning commissions. So it's kind of where we're stuck.
Okay, so we couldn't do we couldn't add a no co-location option, correct?
No.
Okay.
In fact, going to 80 foot, going down to 65 foot is because the applicant has agreed to it.
Got it. Okay.
Any additional comments from our commissioners?
No comments. I
none?
would be certainly willing to second Commissioner Sprague's motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
4 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. So being conditional use permit, this project does have a right to appeal. And for projects where planning commission action is final, action is subject to appeal to the board of supervisors. By any interested person, no development purpose by any application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. Mr. Murphy, would you like to comment in more detail?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, an appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms available at the department and on our website. That filing must be made within 14 days of and including the date of this hearing. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Now moving on to item number 6 on our agenda tonight, I will turn to Mrs. Simons to her presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Josh. Our last, and Commissioners, our last case for tonight is a request from Randy Raymond Jr. for a conditional use permit to allow construction of a residential rehabilitation facility that will operate as a sober living facility and a zone variance for the reduction in required off-street parking from 13 parking spaces to 4 parking spaces. The project site is located at 3420 Fillmore Avenue in unincorporated Bakersfield. The site is currently an undeveloped and vacant parcel. The surrounding properties of the project site to the north, east, south, and west are all zoned R2 and are developed with single-family residents, while the outlying areas of the project location include several multifamily developments such as duplexes and triplexes. To the east of the site of the property, there is an area zoned C1, which does contain a multifamily development and a convenience store that is located along Sterling Road. The proposed facility would be run by Legacy Village and have staff on hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The proposed facility would consist of 1 shared bedroom with 24 beds, a common area, dining facilities, kitchen, 5 restrooms, and 4 office spaces. There will be up to 10 employees that will work in shifts, with the highest concentration of staff being 5 during the regular office hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Legacy Village offers an inpatient treatment and rehabilitation services for clients that have gone through detox prior to admittance and would be going through a program that would include activities such as counseling, group sessions, and other therapeutic activities for up to 24 residents. Clients may have a short regimen of detox medication during the first few days of treatment. However, medical services are not provided on site, and residents would be taken to an off-site facility to receive any required medical care. In addition, it has been confirmed by staff that the facility will not dispose methadone or any ongoing drug therapy on site. Average length of the residence for clients would be 28 to 30 days and could be extended up to 60 days. However, this depends on the client's insurance or the community program specifications. Residents are not permitted to have or drive a vehicle while living on site. The applicant has indicated that any visitations for the facility residents would be conducted off-site. Residents would not be permitted outside of the facility without staff, And staff would like to note that Legacy Village has a company policy barring admittance of any convicted sex offenders. As proposed, the facility will be surrounded on 3 sides by a 6-foot block wall and then decreasing to 4 feet in the front yard setback of the house with a 4-foot wrought iron fence and gate. In regard to the zone variance for the reduced parking on site, the applicant has stated the clients will not be permitted to have private vehicles stored or kept on the project site. Therefore, staff of the facility and any unloading or loading of residents would be the only need for parking. At the most, there would be 5 employees on site at any one time during the hours of 8 p.m. and 5 p.m. And that is when street parking would most likely be utilized by the facility employees, where nearby residents would most likely not be in need of the street parking while they would be at their day jobs. And staff did conduct several site visits to confirm the patterns of parking along this street. During the course of the processing of this request, staff has notified the surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the project site, affected agencies, and county departments. As of this writing, 3 comment letters have been received from county departments and affected agencies, and 1 comment letter from a property owner in the vicinity. Copies of correspondence received have been attached to your staff report for your reference. A comment was received from a property owner in the vicinity that addressed the following concerns: crime and homelessness within the neighborhood, property value decrease, and potential effect on the neighborhood. In response, staff offers the following. In regard to these concerns, staff believes that because the project is an infill project, the development and continued monitoring on site would deter vagrancy within the immediate area of the facility. Concerns regarding property values is a common concern. However, staff believes that this is a speculative assumption at this time without more information. With the development of the project, the site would not be vacant and would be conditioned to remain clean and quiet. Your commission has received an addendum tonight that includes a condition, in addition to a condition, that would require the applicant to ensure that there would be an on-site manager 24 hours a day, and that the applicant will provide the name and direct contact information for the on-site manager, so this information will be kept on file should there be any complaints from neighbors. Additionally, Legacy Village does operate the safety protocol and procedures that would include monitoring by staff 24 hours a day, and the facility will include an internal camera system for safety and security of the site. Staff believes the proposed request of the residential habilitation sober living facility aligns with the purpose of the R2 district in that it employs innovative housing techniques for sensitive community groups that are in need of housing in Kern County. Staff believes the applicant's request for parking variance will not have a significant effect on the surrounding neighborhood, as any street parking utilized by the facility will occur during business hours when the use of on-street parking by nearby residents is at its lowest. To ensure the facility does not impact the surrounding neighborhood, staff has included conditions recommended to your commission that include limiting the maximum number of beds to 24, limiting the main office hours to the public from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and residents of the facility will not be permitted to drive, park, or store a vehicle on the proposed project site while residing at the facility. Included in that would be the condition that you received in your addendum that would include the contact information to be kept on file for any complaints by nearby residents. As I mentioned before, your commission did receive an addendum this evening that included the project description details, as previously mentioned, and the revision of 2 conditions. The first condition is condition 2B, which will be read as residents of the facility will not be permitted to drive, park, or store a vehicle on the proposed project site while living at the facility. There shall be an on-site manager 24 hours per day. The applicant shall provide the name and direct contact information for the on-site manager and the facility office to the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department in order to address any complaints or issues received by this department. The second condition clarifies the requirement for a drainage study on site and would read as such. This is condition 4C. The applicant shall submit a drainage study to be approved by the Kern County Public Works Department Building and Development floodplain. Easements or grant deeds shall be given to the County of Kern for drainage purposes or access thereto as necessary. With these revisions read into the record, staff continues to believe the proposals both satisfy the basis of approval, and therefore staff recommends that your commission approve the conditional use permit subject to revised recommended conditions of approval, approve zone variance subject to recommended conditions of approval, and adopt the suggested findings as set forth in the attached draft resolutions. This concludes staff's presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Thank you,
question.
Mrs. Simons, for that reading, and I will turn to Mr. Sprague. He has a comment.
Yeah, staff, I'm looking at the plat on the screen, and could staff identify the 4 parking spaces designated on the site?
Yes, the 4 parking spaces are, there would be 3, and then 1 that would be for handicap parking.
So there's none for the general public or for the families of the people that are there?
There will be.
Other than on off-street parking, there's nothing on site.
Right.
So my next question would be, is the area there to the left of that parking area available for including more general public parking for the facility? There's a rectangular parcel there.
Yes, Commissioner Sprague through the chair. There will be no public coming on site. Families are not allowed to visit the residents on site. Any visitation would take place off-site. That has been indicated by the applicant. Therefore, there will be no need for parking to be taking place, any additional parking to be taken place. It's primarily for employees or the dropping off or clients coming in for admittance or leaving the facility for medical being disposed or otherwise.
So is staff indicating that the staff at the facility would be parking off-site on the street?
There may be 2 parking spaces that would be typically used in front of any kind of residentially zoned property that the employees would be using in front of the site.
So let me get back to my question that I asked before. The rectangular section of this plat map adjacent to the 4 indicated designated parking places, is that available so that the parking spaces could be increased on site for staff, in-house staff?
I would say that based on what the applicant has presented to us, there would not be any room for additional parking that would also meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, Commissioner Sprague, that was going to be is you have to have the 25-foot, I believe it's 25 feet when you have a perpendicular parking, so there would not be enough room to have 2 spaces because the cars, there would not be the required backup space.
So there's nowhere on the parcel that we could increase the amount of parking other than 4 spaces?
That is my understanding, correct.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sprague. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Skidmore for some comments. Commissioner Skidmore, I think your mic might be on.
Thank you. So I'm seeing that Legacy Village will be for services for people recovering from drug and alcohol addiction. Can you maybe walk me through what the applicant has stated would be on-site versus off-site when it comes to maybe engaging with therapy or handling of medical issues?
As indicated by the applicant, any medical issues would be taken off-site by a staffer. So there would be no medical, unless it was an emergency situation, they would be taken off-site to a medical facility. Counseling, group counseling, and other such activities for therapy would be taking place on site. And that is for, you'll see in the floor plan, there are, I believe, 4 or 3 office spaces, and that's where the clients would be meeting. And then there's also a group therapy area as well.
And not to belabor the parking spaces issue, but do we believe that if there's 24 individuals in the facility receiving counseling, that there'll be enough parking spaces to ensure outside members who will provide those counseling services will be able to park in
As
the
I
facility?
understand it, Commissioner Skidmore, the employees would be, the part of the 10 employees would be part of the counseling. You would probably want to clarify that or confirm that with the applicant that is on the telephone right now. But as I understand it, those 10 employees would be part of the counseling services, and they are limited to having 5 at any one time, so that there may be a little overlap, but that the parking should not overcome the street in any way.
Can the applicant address the parking issue for us?
Yeah, so what we'll do is, I think there's some questions that I think the commission has in operations and the functionality of this facility. I think as Commissioner Skidmore was referring to, I think it's time that we allow the applicant to come on and speak upon his project. And Madam Clerk, do we have the applicant on the line tonight?
Chairman Judge, Randy Raymond and Dennis Farmer are on the line to answer your questions.
Okay. If you guys could unmute yourself and please pronounce your name for the record.
Hello, this is Dennis from Legacy Village.
Sir, I apologize. Can you repeat your name again? It was kind of hard to hear you.
Yes, this is Dennis Farmer from Legacy Village.
Okay. Go ahead, Dennis. You have the floor.
Well, I'm trying to follow along here. So, I mean, as far as the operational concerns, I can probably address some of those with the staffing concerns. So we do run staffing on 24-hour shift work basis. And so we don't have any more than 5 staff there at a time. And that's probably more than we usually do. You figure there's 1 counselor for every 12 clients. So you might have 2 counselors during the course of a day. And then you would have one of our licensed marriage and family therapists or one of our licensed clinical social workers that would come in at some point, plus an ancillary staff. So it's usually 3 or 4 staff that are there at one time. And then as the evening comes on, you would have that pared down. There's not a lot of therapeutic activity or counseling activities that occur after dinner time.
Okay. Any additional comments you'd like to make on your project to help understand this project for the commission tonight?
I think the staff covered it really well. I've spoken with them a couple of times. Want to thank them for their time and the questions they've asked me. I think that they've covered it pretty well at this point. I mean, if you have any questions for me, I'm obviously available for those.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Any fellow commissioners like to speak with the applicant on any operational or comments they may have? No? Okay, so stay on the line. If we have any questions, we'll reach back out to you. Now, are there any other voice messages or any other people from the public that would like to speak on this project?
Chairman Judge, there's 1 voice message that has been left. There are no live public comments, though.
Okay, and so, Madam Clerk, if you want to play that voice message for us, please.
Hello, my name is Efrain Nunez, EFRAINNUNEZ. I'm calling regarding agenda number 6. I know I would like if they don't build a rehab center here for child safety. Child got molested down the street. We don't need no more of that here, and also parking for the streets and all that. There's already enough cars here. So those are my 2 reasons. If anything else, I'll call to let you guys know. Thank you. Bye.
So thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing that was the last voice message, I will close the public comment portion of this item, and if we will refer to the applicant if anything else might need to be addressed. I would like to turn to Commissioner Skidmore. She has another comment.
Yeah, Mr. Farmer, can you give us an overview of the types of agencies that may refer to your facility?
Yes. Am I still unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. We deal with 2 main referral sources. Primary would be commercial insurance. So Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Aetna, we have contracts with all of those insurers. And those are what we consider either commercial or private pay clientele that come to us. We also are, we don't currently have a contract with the county at this particular location. At our other location, we have a contract with the county of Kern to assist individuals who are covered by Medi-Cal coverage. So that's a potential in the future. And those are the 2 primary referral sources. We do some work, although it's not the bulk of our work, with other government agencies like Department of Veterans Affairs. We have a contract with TRICARE for active duty military personnel. Those are more rare just because, we just don't get as many referrals from them. But those are the individuals that we deal with on a residential treatment level.
Great, thank you.
And Mr. Farmer, I have a question for you as well, too. A couple of things. Number one, just from your site plan layout question here, it's notated here that there's 24 beds, but looking at the design, there's only 12 beds on this layout. Can you help explain that, or is that something I'm missing here?
I believe they were bunks, dorm style with
Okay.
bunk beds,
Bunk
but
beds.
that may be a Mr. Raymond question.
Okay. I mean, another question I have for you as well, too, is you mentioned that the individuals that are in the facility are not allowed any visitation, but they are allowed to have off-site visitation. So is there a certain time in the day that the residents are allowed to leave the property? And if they are they allowed only a certain amount of time off the residence before they have to come back? Can you help clarify that?
Sure. So let me go ahead and make the distinction here too between two different operations. And people are usually more familiar with a sober living facility operation. And what we're discussing here, at least for right now, is a residential treatment operation. So, which is the equivalent of an inpatient facility. So we do allow family visiting, but depending on what the constraints are of our individual facility, that may happen off-site. So in this particular case, we have relationships with various local churches who have space and availability to be able to facilitate family visiting or family reunification sessions. So those would be done off-site, which also allows us to control the environment better so that, of course, it doesn't impact other clients. One of two things can happen. Either the other clients become a nuisance or a problem when somebody's trying to visit with their family, or for those who don't have family, it can become a source of upsetting them or depression in their treatment therapy. So we like to do any family visits off-site. Those are typically done within our programming schedule on Sundays. So Sundays are days that clients are allowed to go to a house of worship or things like that. They're escorted by staff or members of the community who we've vetted. And then afterwards, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays, we allow for family visiting. So again, those are arrangements we would make at the various other locations we have in the community.
Okay, so I appreciate that clarification, but that brought up something I want to clarify now is
Sure.
Staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we will clarify that there are no on-site visitation, but are you stating that there is on-site visitation on Sundays?
No. That's our current schedule for visitation is on Sundays. These clients would be taken off-site for that process.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
We don't allow, with the exception of some sort of extenuating circumstances, we don't allow for visiting during the course of Monday through Saturday. They have other programming things and work that needs to be done,
So I also have a question regarding security. So from my understanding, you're going to have up to 24 individuals along with staffing in here. So there could be at a time a minimum of 30 people plus inside this location. Are you keeping, besides security cameras, or is there any on-site security in case there is, like you said, some of the patients might have an episode or might be upset with some situations? Do you have any experience with other locations with that, and how is that being addressed here?
Our clinicians are licensed mental health professionals and behavioral health professionals, so they're trained to deal with situations that may arise in the conducting of this work. We do vet clientele, and this is more of an internal company policy than a regulatory issue, but we do vet clientele to make sure that they're appropriate for the scope of services we're licensed to provide before they come in. So, that being said, there may be issues where we have somebody who comes in who may have a mild dual diagnosis of bipolar or depression, or in our military service individuals that may have PTSD. We vet the severity of those conditions before they come in. The clinical team makes an assessment as to whether or not they're appropriate for treatment at that particular location. And then, of course, if they're not, we have other locations available. So we wouldn't be placing someone there that was outside the scope of what we were able to handle. Does that make sense? And then there are there are licensing requires 24/7 staffing. So there are registered recovery workers, which is our entry level position, but again, trained individuals for this industry that are present anytime that clinical staff are not.
Okay, thank you. And I have two additional questions asked, but directed towards staff. Simon, you did mention that there is a drainage study required on this site. The question I have is, seeing no on-site retention on this site, so are we assuming that that running storm system water is going to come onto county right away?
That would actually be a question more for Public Works. However, that is typical for any site that it would be kept on site. I would imagine that there would be an internal drainage system that would go out to the sewer main. That's usually how that is done, not necessarily with a sump or a retention basin, unless Mr. Murphy would like to add anything to that.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would add is that in the nature of Public Works comment, the site itself is already designed for some sort of external drainage. The reason they wanted to have an additional drainage study is because they need to make sure that if the applicant is proposing a facility that won't drain as the existing standards allow, or the existing infrastructure allows, that they will then retain the rest on site, and their drainage plan will have to do that. So again, because of the nature of the facility was already built, there is internal infrastructure in place. However, this project may be a little bit more in terms of the amount of surface that's been covered, and so that is why they have asked for a revised and a new drainage study, so that they can ensure that any drainage remains on site if the existing infrastructure can't handle it that's already in place.
And that was leading into what I was trying to understand. So if the drainage study does come back and say that because of the impervious area of this property is limited and additional stormwater is carried on, that had to be retained on site, is there any secondary site plan, or what will be the process for the applicant at that time to modify this if this does go through our commission tonight? And where does that leave that situation for them if there is a requirement to retain water on site?
Chairman Judge, it depends on the nature of any changes that would be needed. If it was a slight minor change, we actually have a minor modification process where somebody can say it's in substantial conformity and we would not have to come back for any hearing. If it was a substantial change, if because of a requirement that some sort of drainage facility or sump be located where we did not anticipate one, or where it would drastically change any nature of what was approved, then they would have to come back again for consideration if needed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the other question I had and this is just the functionality of the site, and I was looking at the commenting of the access and the parking. Obviously, the project is limited to the scope of its property limitations, and obviously having the ADA requirement parking stall, it must be there. I was just thinking, did sanitation have any concern at all with the location of the trash dumpsters? Because I'm just thinking of when they're coming and pulling off the street, they're having to park in front of those dumpsters, pull those out. I have a feeling it's going to block access to this site while that's there. I know that's a limited portion throughout the week or day, but was there any comment from sanitation on this at all?
Chairman Judge, I do not believe that anybody from Public Works expressed any concerns regarding the site plan layout in relation to trash enclosures or anything along those lines.
All right, thank you. I would turn to Commissioner Sprague for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there are no other public speakers or no other comments from the commissioners, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve item number 6 as read into record by staff with any revisions.
And I will second.
4 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. Being a conditional use permit, does have a notice of right to appeal. I will turn to Mr. Murphy to read on those right of appeal.
Thank you again, Chairman Judge. For projects where the commission action is final, those actions are subject to appeal to the Board of Supervisors by any interested person, and no development proposed by the application may be authorized until after the final date of appeal. An appeal may be filed with the Kern County Planning and Natural Resources Department located at 2700 M Street, Suite 100 in Bakersfield, with a filing fee of $540 on forms that we have available at the department and on our website. That filing must be made within 14 days of and include the date of this hearing. If no appeal is received, the action of your commission is final.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. And with that, I'll move on to adjournment. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All ayes. Meeting adjourned.